How you going there, viewers? Welcome to episode 2 of Boat Talk from the backyard, underneath the boat port, which is the carport that you put a boat under. Alright, well today I thought we might have a little look around the cockpit. We might venture in there. But we'll start with the things that go on in the cockpit of head injuries. The Dancer 19 trailer sailor. Okay, so on head injuries, I use a Mercury 5 horsepower 2-stroke outboard engine, which is a great little motor. It pushes the boat along at about 5 knots, which is the hull speed of this boat approximately. Tops little engine, reasonably lightweight. The problem I find with outboard motors on trailer sailors is you can't really leave them on the boat if you're trailing a long distance. Now if I'm just going from here down to Ulladulla Harbour, that's fine. I can sort of rope it into position so if I go over a bump it doesn't bounce around and want to fall off the back of the boat or damage the back of the boat or damage the actual kicker bracket that goes up and down. So that's fine just for down the road. But anything apart from that, you really do run the risk of doing some serious damage to the transom or to the actual kicker bracket, or God forbid if the thing came off someone who was driving behind you. So I take it off. Now, I don't like putting it in the back of the four-wheel drive because it doesn't leak petrol, but you still get the fumes, and if you're driving long distances with the smell of petrol, that's not a good thing either. So I've decided that I'll put it inside the cockpit, and I have made up just a couple of little mounting points for that, which you can see down here. They're actually handles, but strong enough to do what I need them to do. I just have a little block of rubber that sits down in there. There's a block of rubber there where the actual prop sits against. It just locks in there nicely, and I just use a couple of cam straps to just pull it into place. And that way it sits down in here where it's nice and secure, and when I get to the boat ramp, it's just a matter of undoing it, lifting it up and putting it onto the back of the boat. I find that a lot easier actually than lugging it from the back of the car around and sort of lifting it up. I let gravity do the work and I just lower it down. So that's not a bad idea for you maybe if you've experiencing the same outboard motor issues and what to do with it when trailing. Get yourself some tie down points and just leave it on the cockpit floor. So that's not a bad one. Interesting little thing down here you might notice. If you have a close look, it has the word Crown on it, as in Crown forklifts. I have a friend that visits the place that I work at quite regularly. Well, he's become a friend over the years, who is a Crown forklift technician, and that particular thing there is comes off what they call a wave machine, which is a little like a little cart that you would drive around warehouses, push a button and it goes up in the air so you can pick orders and things like that. And that's to put all the paperwork in on that machine. And he had a couple of those just laying around that had come off some old machine somewhere, and he said, you got any use for these? To which I went, you know what, that'll make a good winch handle holder. And it's made out of a fairly good quality rubbery type substance where it can handle the elements, handles the UV, handles the salt. And so next time you see your friendly Crown forklift technician, ask him if he's got a few wave paperwork holders. They work really well as a winch holder. You can buy something very similar to that, which is called a winch handle holder, but they're really expensive, and this one cost me nothing. So yeah, there we go. bit of mindless trivia. Right, moving right along. Let's talk about my auto helm or auto tiller steer, which is right there, and we'll go and have a bit of a look at that, shall we? Alright, so this is my auto helm or tiller steer autopilot. There's a couple of brands on the market. Can't remember the other one. This one's a Ray Marine. It's an ST1000. It will do a boat, I can't remember exactly, but it'll do a boat bigger than this, that's for sure. I think it'll go up to about a 7 or 8 metre long boat, and then you've got to work out your weight and stuff like that. But, a wide range before you go up to the next level, which is the ST2000. Now these things are great. They're good for safety. If you're on a boat by yourself and you need to drop sails or put sails up, in particular, we'll use that as an example, you just can't just let go of the tiller. I mean, you can tie the tiller off, but that doesn't really work, particularly if there's any sort of real breeze around. If you want to drop sails, let's say you want to drop the main, best thing to do is to have the boat going into the breeze. I utilise the outboard, get a bit of speed up so that the boat's pushing into the breeze. My main is flapping, I have lazy jacks, I throw the hat in and it basically falls down into the boom bag. But you can't do all that while steering the boat into the breeze. So one of these is great. You just get the boat to where you want it to be headed, put the boat on the heading you want, hit auto, and there's a little compass just down inside there and it holds the boat on that heading. Works really, really well. Yes, sometimes if you get blown off course a bit, you'll fight, but you might not be in the breeze all the time. But it works really well for that safety point of view of having to be able to let go of the tiller and not have the boat do crazy things and go all over the place. Brilliant for putting sails up and down. So highly recommend one of those. I'm not sure what they might cost in your part of the world, but I think from memory they're around that $1,000 mark in Australia. And I fitted this one myself, and yes, I probably could have done a slightly different job of fitting it. There was a bit of, after I'd done the job, looked at it and went, yeah, probably could have done that a better way, but I did it this way, so here it is. Right, so pin at the back, basically call it a bush, I suppose, which is now mounted into the deck here. I've reinforced that underneath with some hardwood, which I've glassed over, and some epoxy as solid as. Drops in there. Now there's certain dimensions that you need to get right for this thing to work properly, and that's all in the instructions, and you'll find YouTube videos on how to do this stuff. And I decided I was going to mount it there, which meant I had to bring this up level, which meant I had to get this bracket made up from my good friend Rob the dentist. And that just drops on so like that. I had to purchase an extension because of that distance. In hindsight, I could have made up a bracket and done that and not have it had to use the extension. Anyway, I did what I did. I suppose the advice there would be is if you're going to get one of these things is think about how you're going to do it and then think about how you're going to do it again some more. But look, it works fine where it is. And that bracket is quite substantial. So yeah, it's a simple thing of basically you drop the thing into position, you drive the piston in and out, or a piston or a push rod, until you're ready to put it onto there. You hit auto and the boat will go that direction. If you want to change direction, you've got plus and minus 10 degrees, plus and minus 1 degree. It has lots of other features. It has a self-tacking feature. I've never used it, never needed to. It also has a sea state sensor whereby it will work out how the boat is rocking and rolling in swells and waves, and it'll start to counteract that. So when you first put it into auto mode, it might tend to be working fairly hard to get the boat to stay on course, but you'll notice over a period of a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes or so, it's actually settled right down. So it's got its own little brain in there. But yeah, there we go. That's the Ray Marine ST1000 autopilot. Highly recommend them for safety alone. let alone the ability to go downstairs maybe and quickly make a cup of tea or grab something from down below. Nice cold, refreshing beer, possibly zero alcohol beer in my case. I highly recommend the zero beers for sailing too. You drink heaps of them and you don't have to worry about carrying on like a bloody idiot and doing stupid things. Yeah, so brilliant for that. Word of warning, and it's written all over the instructions with these tiller devices. They're not designed so that you can go, right, I'm going to sail that way for the next 3.5 hours and go and have a sleep, because they don't know if there's a whale in front of you. They don't know if there's some bloke on another boat that's also doing the same thing as asleep. You have to be up on deck watching what's going on. Brilliant to go down below just for a minute or so, and even when I do that, I'm still looking out the windows or out the front hatch just to make sure there's nothing in the way. But don't put it on a course and then just think that that's where it's going to take you. Don't use it for navigating thinking that that's exactly where it's going to take you, because it won't. It'll be out by a few degrees, and by the time you go quite a few nautical miles, you're completely off course. So not designed for that. They can be tied into autopilot systems, I believe, like Navtronics, I think it is, I'm not 100% sure, where they will steer the boat to a set course, but once again, you wouldn't rely on it 100%. You need to be on deck watching, or someone needs to be on deck on watch at all times. That's just common sense. Okay, so a few more things inside the cockpit on board head injury. The fish finder, we spoke about the fish finder in the last video, which I basically bought just for a depth sounder, and the bonus was I got a fish finder as well. Compass. This one is connected to my navigation running light, so the night time that'll light up so I can set. To be perfectly honest, I've never had to use my compass at night anyway. In fact, I very rarely have had to use my compass. The only time I'll use my compass really is if I'm sort of just working out exactly which way the wind's coming from. I'll look at the feather on the top of the mast and go, okay, so the breeze is coming from the northeast. If I did need a compass, well, I've got one. So yeah, you should have one on your boat. You never know, you might be just sailing offshore, just gone out for a day sail and a big sea fog comes in or some sea mist and you can't see the land. It can be very disorientating. So yep, at least the compass will tell you which way you've got to go to run into the land, I suppose. Right, harness point. Extremely strong, well-mounted harness point down there. Once again, I haven't found myself in too many situations where I've needed to put the harness on in this boat. Certainly have in bigger boats, outside doing a bit of up and down the coast type sailing, 40 footers and things like that. Had a few moments where the harness has been on, and I'm glad that I've had it on, but no, definitely haven't needed one on head injuries, but it's there. And I suppose if I had, well, I've tied the dog up to it, there you go. Or if you've got kids on board, sometimes maybe it'd be a good idea to throw a harness on them, leave somewhere to tie. Don't use your safety lines for harnesses too, by the way, guys. That's not what they're designed for. If you really fell over the side and you were hooked onto one of them, and well, it's probably just going to break and then you just wave goodbye to your boat. So don't use your safety lines on that. They're just sort of there to grab hold of maybe and stuff, but they're not for full-on safety harnesses. Jack lines, I think they call them. I have a jack line that runs up to the bow, which if I did need to, I can hook my safety harness onto that, working my way up to the bow to drop a headsail or whatever it is I've got to do. Don't use those safety things, that's not what they're there for. What else have we got on the outside out here? All the lines run back to the cockpit, all my control lines, all my halyards. Suggest you do that if you don't have your control lines running back to the cockpit and you want to go sailing by yourself. Yeah, highly recommend you just work that out, run the pulleys and get all your lines back here, because you can do everything from in here and it's nice and safe in here, it's not so safe up there. And look, that's about all I think I've got for the cockpit side of things. I've got one more. Sound system, yes. I used to have an old car type stereo set up on board, and the problem with that, and mind you, the boat was moored back then, this boat had been moored for some years, it just went rusty and died. So I put a bit of thought into it, looked around on eBay. I spend a lot of time on eBay. and I found a Herdio device, which is basically two waterproof speakers, UV stable plastics, and a small little box about so big, which is a little amplifier and a Bluetooth receiver, and all they use on the phone. So I've got all of the music on my phone, on my Spotify account, and I just use that. A little bit of Smashing Pumpkins. Probably not everyone's taste out there, certainly mine, love the Smashing Pumpkins. That was not even half volume, by the way. This thing really cranks, and surprisingly enough, it gets some pretty good bass because of the hull. I highly recommend having one of those as well. It's just really simple to put in. You just basically put 12 volt to it, mount your speakers, and then Bluetooth your phone to it. Very loud if you need it to be. And yeah, it's like I say, waterproof and UV resistant, so a really good purchase. And I think from memory it was, I don't even think it was $200. I think it was less than $200, and it took me an hour or so to install. And I think the hardest part about that was just drilling the holes for the speaker. You just had to get the right size hole saw. That's right, I didn't have the right size hole saw, so I drilled a million little tiny 1/8 holes and then filed it out. Alright, well anyway, we might head inside the cabin. Alright, well, come on in. Please excuse the mess. Very small cabin. Everything is crammed in. That would be my luxurious bed. Underneath that is a little porta potty. And yeah, there's not a lot of room inside Head Injuries. These Dancer 19s, not a lot of headroom, as I said in earlier videos. But we'll have a look around, and like I say, please excuse the mess. So I've got myself a fridge, 12 volt fridge. Great little fridge that I bought from the King's website here in Australia. Very well priced, works brilliant. I have 2 batteries that I have on board, and I can hear all the people out there that race sailing boats going, 2 batteries, but what about the weight? Well, if I go racing, the batteries and the fridge come out. But I don't do a lot of racing, and I like to have nice cold beer and fresh, food that's not swimming around in an esky full of ice water at the bottom or going yuck. So yeah, I've got a battery down there. I've got another battery up underneath the bunk there, which are 80 amp hour sealed batteries, so you can tip them upside down and you don't have to worry about things like that. And they run this thing pretty much 24 hours a day, 7 days a week when I want it to, and it keeps everything cold. Yeah, unless I had a run of extremely cloudy days, even if it's just slightly overcast, I get enough juice out of the solar panel back there to just keep these batteries topped up. And yeah, I've had the fridge running for, I think the longest I've had it running now is probably 5 days. Not a problem at all, and worked really well. Mind you, that was 5 days of constant sun. Right, the classic Metho stove. You'll find it hard getting these little beauties these days. You still can get them, of course, but this thing came with the boat. And I remember when my father bought his Dancer, it came with the exact same stove. So this was a standard appliance on board when you bought the boat brand new. Great little thing. Metho stoves are brilliant. You need to know how to light them. There's a bit of an art to lighting them without setting fire to yourself in the boat. But you don't have to worry about gas. And LPG gas is heavier than air, so it sinks. And the classic story of, the leaking gas bottle on the boat, and then the guy puts his head down low to get out of the window, light his cigarette, and kaboom. You don't have to worry about that with Metho. You do have to worry about Metho leaking and getting places, but it's a lot easier to manage from a safety point of view. And word of warning with any type of combustion in a small space like this, make sure you got your hatch open, because carbon monoxide poisoning apparently I've been told is a rather pleasant way to go, but you don't know you're going. You basically get a bit euphoric and fall asleep and wake up dead. So make sure that you have plenty of ventilation whenever you are using any type of combustion cooking device inside a boat or any confined space. We've got a sink over here, which was a standard fixture. The sink is in there. I've just gone and made myself a little bit of a bench top for both surfaces here. Inside there is the sink, which I left the cutout in so that I've actually got, you know, a food preparation area as such. That is a little 12-volt water pump. I won't operate that now because I've drained the water out of my 60-litre water bladder, which is down underneath the cockpit floor, and there's a vantage point for that down there. I tend to, if I'm going a long distance trailing, I'll leave it empty until I get close to where I'm going, and then hunt around for a service station with a hose and fill it up there, or find some way of filling it up. I have done it with a bucket before, but you know, I don't need to put 60 litres in there. I just put maybe, you know, 20 or 30 sometimes. It's really just for, I'm out for a few days. Sometimes I don't fill it up at all. I just have my water bottle down there, which I use, which is, what's that, 10 litres of water. And I've got a few other bottles of water around anyway, just in case. So that's the sink and such. The fridge, I made up a little chart type table here, which is not really a chart table. It just folds down. It's out of a bit of perspex I had floating around, some bits of angle. What that really works well for is I put my mobile phone on it. And I know that my mobile phone won't fall off it because of the little lip when the boat's up on its ear. But I can always grab my phone because I use my phone for my navigation chart app, and I can just look inside, either grab it and take it outside, or just look into where I'm going or whatever. And yeah, that keeps the phone out of the mess. Right, we could have a quick look at some electronics here. We just got to move things. Like I said, there's not a lot of room on board head injuries, guys. Right, there is a well oversized solar controller. I decided to just go up much bigger than what I needed. I'm glad I did. This is actually a good quality one. You can buy the cheaper ones that you can get for like under $20 off eBay and places like that, and I've got one on my four-wheel drive. I've actually got one just out there operating some solar garden lights that I made, and they work okay. But they're not overly reliable sometimes, and this one here is great. It works well. The electrics board that I made up also doubles up as my bilge pump mount, fire extinguisher, a little thing down there, put my sharp knife in, which is actually in the kitchen at the moment. And then a number of switches that do a number of things. We don't necessarily need to go into all of them, but basically mast light, steaming light. I have a deck light that shines down, which is a rather bright LED light. Use LED globes, guys. It just uses heaps less power, and they last pretty much forever. Yeah, so, you know, shining light down onto the deck if I need to be up there at night time. We've got running lights. I've got some cabin lights. I've got cockpit lights. We've got power to things like depth gauges, fish finders, auto tillers. Everything goes through a switch and a fuse. VHF radio up there, little handheld UHF, you know, just so if I am with somebody else who's on shore. Sometimes quite often if I go away and my wife's with me, she can either use the radio in the four-wheel drive, or one of those she'll have as well, and tell me to come home because dinner's ready. Yeah, that's pretty much about all I think I can talk about inside head injuries. Alright, well that's enough of inside head injuries, and I think we might call it a quits for the video there. I will make another video hopefully next week. We're sort of working our way through the boat. We're into the middle of the boat now. We'll get up onto the bow, up onto the sharp end in the next video, and we'll talk about bowsprits and code 0 sails, and whatever else I can find up there that I might have done to the boat. But I hope you guys have a great weekend. It's actually a really nice day. It's coming over a bit cloudy, but Would have been pretty good for a sail today. Yeah. No, I've made the right choice. There are people everywhere, so we'll just hold off on that until after school goes back here in Australia, which is in that first week in February, so we're only a week or so away. And just to remind you that, a few things. The next video series of sailing videos, that is, will be at Mile Lakes. I'm heading up there at the end of February. That's a definite goer up there for 4 nights. So I might do a couple of videos from up there. I will have my lovely wife with me and some friends. So we'll sort of juggle the whole, you know, being the friend and family man and being able to do the solo type sailing things. We'll come up with something. Then the next one that's booked in is mid-March, and that is Lake Yukonbean in the Snowy Mountains here in Australia. Massive lake. I think I read that it's got 6 times the volume of Sydney Harbour. I have been there before in a Dancer 19 when I was a boy in my father's boat, but that was 40 years ago, maybe a bit more, so it's a bit hard to remember. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll go up there for a couple of nights. So yeah, that's what's coming up. And don't forget to get yourself a Sailing Head Injuries Boom to the Head t-shirt. So if you go to cafepress.com.au/Sailing Head Injuries merchandise, all one word, you'll see the range of Sailing Head Injuries merchandise. The link for that, if you're like me and can't remember things and just want to be able to click on something, is in the description of this YouTube channel. You'll find that clickable link there that'll take you straight to my merchandise store. And once again, have a great day. Stay safe if you're going sailing or boating. Until next time, have a good one.